deep in the remote northern reaches of Queensland, Australia, stands a strange and imposing mountain that looks like absolutely nothing else on Earth. Located just a half-hour drive outside the town of Cooktown, the surrounding landscape is filled with typical green savanna, low scrub, grass, and towering eucalyptus trees. But out of nowhere, rising dramatically from this familiar terrain, a massive, pitch-black monolith of piled boulders fills your vision. From a distance, it looks as though some ancient, cataclysmic force gathered thousands of house-sized black rocks and stacked them carelessly on top of one another. Yet, the true mystery of this mountain does not lie in its bizarre physical appearance or the unique structure of its stones. It lies hidden deep within a dark, terrifying, and completely unexplained history. For more than 150 years, people who ventured near this mountain have vanished into thin air without a trace. Entire herds of cattle have walked into the crevices of these rocks and disappeared forever. Even more chillingly, when police search parties and modern rescue teams marched into this rugged terrain to find the missing travelers, they never returned. Yes, entire search parties have vanished without leaving behind a single clue. Scientists describe it as a highly complex geological anomaly. Local indigenous elders call it a sacred, cursed battlefield, and modern researchers have named it Australia's very own Bermuda Triangle. But in 2022, the most recent classified investigation uncovered grounded historical evidence that could challenge everything we think we know about this place. If you are new to our channel, make sure to click that crimson wax seal subscribe button right now and turn on the bell icon, because your subscription is what drives us to uncover the lost truths hidden within these forgotten maps. Let us know right now in the comments below if you had ever heard of Black Mountain before watching this video today. Official government records call it Black Mountain. The traditional owners of this land, the Kuku-Yalanji people, have known it for thousands of years by its original name, Kalkajaka. In their native language, Kalkajaka translates directly to the place of the spear. However, this is far more than just a geographic name. It is an ancient historical warning embedded into the land itself, long predating the arrival of modern civilization on this island continent. For generations, the indigenous people understood with total clarity that a deep, unseen danger lurked within this mountain, one that defied ordinary human understanding. To truly grasp the mystery, we must first look at what modern science tells us about this formation. Geologists describe Black Mountain as a massive granite structure that formed millions of years ago when molten magma solidified deep underground. Over an immense span of time, the softer surrounding rock and soil eroded away naturally, exposing this colossal pile of granite at the surface. But if you think of this as a conventional mountain with a steady slope that you can simply hike up, you are making the biggest mistake of your life. It is not a mountain in the ordinary sense at all. It is a massive, chaotic, and treacherous jumble of thousands of granite boulders, balanced against each other at every conceivable angle by sheer gravity. Many of these individual boulders are the size of multi-story houses, and hidden beneath them lies a labyrinth of millions of narrow crevices, dark tunnels, and sudden vertical drop-offs that are completely impossible to see from above. The mountain's striking, charcoal black color also hides a fascinating scientific truth. If you assume these rocks are naturally as black as coal, you will be surprised to learn that the granite underneath is actually a pale, natural gray. The ominous color comes entirely from a paper-thin biological crust, a specific combination of lichen and blue-green algae that has grown across the exposed surface of the rock over thousands of years. This microscopic plant layer is what darkens the mountain and gives it its haunting, uniform appearance from a distance. But what lies beneath this dark crust is infinitely more lethal than its color. The boulders that make up Black Mountain are not fused together into a single, solid landmass. They are simply stacked, balanced precariously against one another. The moment you step onto one of these massive rocks, you risk shifting the weight and destabilizing the entire internal structure of the mountain. The subterranean crevices extend so deep into the earth that if a person or an animal slips into one of these gaps, they will fall straight down into an abyss of absolute darkness, a void so deep that their cries for help can never be heard from the surface. Historical archives contain multiple official records where professional search and rescue teams, fully equipped with heavy ropes, GPS tracking, and specialized caving gear, were physically unable to access the lower chambers. Moving a single boulder to reach someone trapped inside risks triggering a catastrophic rockslide, burying the rescuers alive alongside the person they are trying to save. This exact safety reason that even though the mountain sits within a heavily visited national park, the Australian government has legally closed the entire formation to climbers and hikers. There are no marked trails for tourists, no safety barriers, and no rescue infrastructure built into the rock, because the volatile terrain simply cannot safely support any modern structures. Park authorities explicitly instruct visitors to view the mountain only from designated roadside lookout points. Approaching the rock face means risking certain death. But this raises a profound question. Why did the traditional owners name this place the Battlefield of Spears centuries before European colonizers arrived? And why did they fear it so deeply? Harold Ludwig, a prominent elder and descendant of the traditional ownership clans, has shared an incredible truth from their ancient folklore. To their sacred Dreamtime history, Kalkajaka was the site of a final, blood-drenched battle between two massive ancestral groups, the Black Cockatoo and the White Cockatoo clans. A violent conflict over contested hunting grounds fought between inland and coastal tribes. It resulted in the deaths of thousands of warriors. Their broken remains were said to have been placed deep within the mountain's dark, hollow chambers. Another version of the dreaming tells of two ancestral giants who fell in love with the same woman, throwing these massive granite boulders at each other as weapons in a furious war. The battle ended when they killed one another, leaving these stone piles behind as a permanent monument to their destruction. While the Kuku-Yalanji people deeply respect other religious sites in the area, they treat Kalkajaka as a place of extreme spiritual danger, refusing to step foot inside its boundaries to this very day. However, the recorded history of mysterious disappearances and tragedies began in earnest in 1872, when modern settlers first began crossing into this forbidden territory. A local courier named Philip Granger became the first documented victim of the mountain's curse. According to historical accounts, he traveled toward the base of the mountain in search of a stray calf. The result was absolute silence. Neither the calf, nor a single piece of Granger's clothing, nor his horse was ever seen again on the face of the earth. Exactly 10 years later, in 1882, the mountain claimed its most controversial and officially documented victims. Two highly experienced cattlemen, Harry Owens and George Hawkins, rode out toward the treacherous boulder fields of Black Mountain to recover lost livestock. When they failed to return after several days, the police deployed a massive armed search party to track them down. Days turned into weeks, but that rescue team never marched out of the wilderness. A second search party was then sent out to investigate. When they reached the main entrance of the mountain, they froze in terror. They found the horses of the first rescue team tied tightly to the trees, their rifles, supplies, and food all sitting perfectly untouched on the ground. But there was absolutely no sign of the men. It was as if an unseen force, or something living deep beneath the earth, had plucked them straight into the sky. Years later, one of the missing men was found, wandering out of a nearby jungle in a severely emaciated and unkempt state. But when police and doctors attempted to question him, he was unable to form coherent sentences. His eyes were wide with a permanent, haunting terror, as though he had looked directly into something humans were never meant to see. Witnessed in the deepest chambers of those dark tunnels remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The terror only deepened in 1928, when a prospector named Hugh Packer entered the caves in search of gold and precious gemstones. Weeks later, his body was recovered near the mouth of a tunnel with a mysterious gunshot wound to his chest, his rifle lying undisturbed beside him. While official reports quickly labeled it an accident or suicide to avoid public panic, the locals knew better. They believed it was the ancient curse of Kalkajaka, or a guardian protecting a hidden truth beneath the earth, refusing to tolerate any intruders from the outside world. In 1932, another mysterious death near the base of the mountain added a new layer of dread to the region, when a traveler was found dead right by the massive boulder piles. The local authorities were completely unable to provide the public with any logical explanation for the cause of death. As these strange disappearances and fatalities continued to multiply, local newspapers capitalized on the growing panic, publishing sensationalized and terrifying articles that permanently etched a deep sense of fear into the public consciousness. This unbroken pattern of bizarre events eventually earned the solitary mountain a notorious nickname, usually reserved for that treacherous stretch of the Atlantic Ocean between Florida and Bermuda. Residents and independent researchers began referring to Kalkajaka as Australia's very own Bermuda Triangle, firmly believing that the ordinary laws of nature cease to apply here, and noting that official explanations from the government always arrived far too late, or simply not at all. This ominous reputation was not merely confined to old historical archives and dusty police records. It stretched forward directly into modern human memory. According to documented local reports, as recently as the year 2001, 2 campers setting up gear near the base of the mountain experienced a bone-chilling encounter. In the dead of night, they witnessed a massive, dark mass moving with incredible speed directly toward their camp, only to vanish into thin air right before their eyes. Terrified by what they saw, the men did not even wait for sunrise. They abandoned their expensive equipment in the dark and fled for their lives. However, if you believe the terrifying mysteries of this location are only confined to its deep fissures and underground tunnels, you are mistaken. A massive body of folklore has grown around Black Mountain that is built entirely on the eerie testimonies of people who never even stepped foot on the rocks. For decades, commercial and private pilots flying over the area have officially reported that the moment their aircraft enters the airspace directly above Black Mountain, their cockpit compasses and advanced navigational instruments begin behaving erratically. This unexplained phenomenon has created a widespread, unspoken reluctance among local aviators to fly directly over the formation. To solve this mystery and determine if the granite possessed some sort of supernatural magnetic field capable of disrupting modern aviation equipment, a highly advanced, formal magnetic survey was conducted in the 1990s. Yet, to the profound confusion of the scientific community, the survey's final data revealed no significant magnetic anomaly at the site whatsoever, leaving the instrument failures a complete paradox. Furthermore, visitors near the mountain have long reported hearing strange, low moaning sounds or heavy sighing noises echoing from deep within the rock pile during quiet afternoons or dead nights. While some researchers offer a rational explanation, suggesting that high-velocity winds rushing through the millions of narrow underground crevices act like a natural wind instrument, or that the colossal weight of the granite causes the boulders to shift slightly and grind against each other. The sound in the pitch dark remains terrifying enough to convince anyone of a supernatural presence. To uncover the grounded truth behind a century of terrifying tales, a Cooktown-based historian named Bev Shea conducted an unprecedented, exhaustive investigation in 2022 into the disappearances that had defined the mountain's legacy. By cross-referencing generations of oral storytelling with the original, centuries-old official police archives, her findings revealed a reality that was, in its own way, far more unsettling than any ghost story. Shea discovered that when the most famous disappearance stories were traced back to their absolute primary sources, the original records did not match the modern retellings at all. Over decades of informal storytelling around campfires and in local taverns, details had been wildly exaggerated. Names of victims had been changed, and dates had shifted by years, or even decades, depending on who was telling the story. Incidents and tragic accidents that had actually occurred at entirely different geographical locations were quietly folded into the Black Mountain narrative by locals, simply because the mountain already possessed a dark reputation that acted as a magnet for any unexplained tragedy. In her official report, Shea stated directly that when you look closely at the verified historical data, a significant number of the popular claims simply did not happen in the form they are told today. However, this breakthrough does not mean nothing ever happened at Black Mountain. Instead, it proves that the cultural mythology surrounding Kalkajaka had, over generations, amplified a small handful of real, tragic, and entirely explicable accidents into a grand, supernatural conspiracy that sounded far more frequent than the historical record supports. Disappearances did happen, but the exact numbers, identities, and circumstances were blurred by a century of media sensationalism and the natural human psychological tendency to remember the eerie version of a story rather than the mundane one. Researchers analyzing the actual physical hazards of the site point to a much more realistic explanation for why people who went missing were rarely found. The geological layout of the terrain makes conventional search and rescue operations a logistical nightmare. A person who slips and falls into one of the mountain's deep, vertical fissures becomes completely invisible to searchers standing just feet above them. Furthermore, because there is no continuous airflow in these deep voids, tracking dogs cannot catch a scent trail, rendering specialized rescue teams powerless even if they suspect someone is trapped beneath the rocks. Compounding the tragedy is the sheer remoteness of the region. Missing persons were often not reported to the police until days after they vanished, allowing any physical trail to grow completely cold before a search could even begin. Additionally, the waterways surrounding the mountain carry severe hidden risks, including lethal crocodile attacks and accidental drownings, common to remote Australian outbacks. Extreme heat, dehydration, poor decision-making, and unfamiliarity with the volatile environment are the true, documented causes behind these tragedies. The exact same factors responsible for vanishings in dangerous, remote wildernesses anywhere else in the world, requiring no supernatural intervention or alien technology. The true significance of Kalkajaka does not lie in fictional ghost stories or imaginary magnetic fields. Its real power rests on the layered history sitting directly on top of the geology itself, a real ancestral battlefield, and an ancient name carrying an embedded warning that existed long before modern settlement ever touched the continent. The traditional owners understood with absolute clarity that this volatile geographic formation demanded a different kind of respect and caution than the country surrounding it. Black Mountain is not haunted, and modern science does not support a supernatural conspiracy. It is, however, a genuinely hazardous, lethal geological formation that sat at the center of human imagination. Growing grander and stranger with every decade, it was retold. In the end, the ancient Aboriginal warning turned out to be right from the very beginning. The mountain never needed ghosts or anomalies to be dangerous. It was always lethal on its own terms. After uncovering the deep history of this mysterious place, what do you believe is the real truth behind Kalkajaka? Is it merely a dangerous natural death trap amplified by human imagination? Or is there still an ancient, unseen reality hidden beneath those black stones that modern science has failed to grasp? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to continue journeying with us to uncover the forbidden secrets and lost truths of human history, make sure to subscribe to Forgotten Maps right now and set your notifications to all, so you never miss our next expedition into the unknown.